Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 5, Computer Science Distance Learning. This week, we're going to be applying what we talked about last week with variables and controlling memory of an application or a program with variables. So I've got our agenda for today posted here in Google Classroom. So hopefully this video will help you get started in Google Classroom and in your lesson today. So this week we're going to be building an app, which is a clicker game. And by building the app, you will implement and apply the variables that we talked about last week and controlling the memory and the app's function with variables. So the big distinction that you're going to learn in this lesson is a local variable and a global variable and how to use those in your program. So for today, the agenda I would like you to follow is to first complete the 11 to 12 bubbles at the beginning of the lesson. If you can get up through bubble 12, that will finish you off with the section on debugging variables and looking at global variables versus local variables. There is a handout activity guide for the lesson that I linked here in the agenda for today in Google Classroom, so you guys can take a look at that and follow along with some of the descriptions. I wanted to show you in code.org the agenda and kind of the flow for what we're looking at with bubbles today. We are looking at these first 11 or 12. That'll take you down here, obviously, through this section on debugging variables and some reflection on debugging, looking at local and global variables, and some practice based on what you did last week with variables and practicing in the app lab, some different things. So this is where I'd like you to focus your attention is these first 12 today. The overview is going to be important as well as the demonstration in bubble 2 of kind of where you're going and what your products should look like after the lesson this week as we complete it in lesson 2. So there's an overview here of what you're going to be doing as far as the learning concepts are concerned with local and global variables and using variables to keep track of the score in a very simple game. So this will help you in applying the concepts from last week. There's some new vocabulary and some new code. So don't forget with the new code, you can click on these elements down here or the code sample, and it will take you to the dictionary and the library for this code by giving you a description of the code and then some examples of how it's used in a program. So I definitely check that out as you're getting started and incorporating this into your clicker game app this week. So definitely good reference. Also, the handout that I linked in Google Classroom is here as well under the resources, so you can take a look at that. And then jumping over to bubble 2, the clicker game demonstration, and then you're off and going on your own and creating your sample app following some instructions. And then you'll be looking at some debugging keys and local and global variables as well. So hopefully this will help you in getting started with the lesson. So here's just a demo. You can run it right by pushing run. You've got multiple screens. And the objective here is to grab 25 apples and you win. So we're just taking the apples and we're clicking on them, highlighting them. So we've used multiple screens. We've looked at multi-screen apps and how to create multiple screens. We've looked at buttons that change and have a function attached to them so that on a click command, some function will run. And then we also looked at images that move when you click on them. Okay, so some things that are going to be new are keeping track of and displaying a changing score value as the score is increased, keeping track of and displaying the changing lives, right? And then changing to the win screen if the score hits the winning value. Okay, so we have some conditionals. If you looked at that on the first bubble, we've got some conditionals. If this, then this code runs, right? So if we get to 25, then we want the code to run to launch the win screen. If we lose, right, then we want the lose screen if the lives hit 0. So we're going to implement some of those on a click command functions and some conditionals, if statements. If this happens, then we want this to run. So we'll be practicing those this week. So hopefully you get started well. Reach out with any questions you have if you do get stuck, and we'll work on finishing up this lesson in lesson 2. So hope you enjoy making your clicker app this week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.